Hello and welcome to episode 1003 of The Sleeper and the Bus. It is Friday, January 21st. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, dear sir. I love that jersey.
I know. It's beautiful, right? Little and Cedric Mullins.
People can be checking it out right now, too. Yeah. We're streaming live just for everybody. We're going to be doing it for Patreons going forward, but a couple of, first one free type of deal. We're just going the drug dealer route right now.
Yeah. We got to get people hooked on the product first.
The tried and true method of crack dealers. We're going with it. If there's anything I say, it's follow the methods of crack dealers.
Absolutely. You got to hook them for free and hook them while they're young. So make sure you're playing this around your children.
Really dark how accurate that is. And I don't mean to be so dark off rip there because, obviously drugs are bad. I'm good. But we got some baseball to talk about on this very cold day. Austin's been freezing this week. It's 28 right now. It's actually warmer where you are by a decent bit. You said it's like 45. Which is just crazy. I hate cold weather. Most of y'all know that. Anybody who's been listening for any amount of time knows I just despise cold weather. Sorry, I had the YouTube open there. I'm an idiot. I didn't know the link was going to be going. I'm sorry. I'm an amateur.
I can't even take that out. We're live.
Don't take it out. Leave it. I'm an amateur here.
I'm going to.
But here, what we're talking about today, I found a good topic for us. You know, you do your great ADP Market Watch segment or articles highlighting guys that are moving up and down at each position. You've been going through the positions regularly. I think you've done each position twice at least, maybe even 3 times on some of them. I wanted to step back, take even a bigger look at that because you're going week to week. So you're getting the minute up to the minute moves. I wanted to see some of the bigger sweeping moves. So what I did was take ADP from October through December as one chunk versus the January ADPs so far. Turns out that those samples were kind of very well matched up. October through December, 43 drafts. So far here in January, 47. So we're dealing with pretty similar samples. That makes things better. Obviously, we have a lot of news. Now, this is not just the 5 biggest movers up and the 5 biggest movers down. This is me going through and picking 5 interesting guys on each side because some of them are very obvious, right? Like, I think we know why Diego Castillo's gone down. People don't think he's going to close anymore. Obviously, Buster Posey, he retired, So we have some obvious ones that I don't think we need to cover. We've talked Andrew Heaney to death. He signed with the Dodgers. We know why he's 4th on the list of biggest movers up. Same with Alex Cobb, to be honest, too. We've talked about him going to San Francisco. Is a big deal. Or staying with San Francisco, I should say, is a big deal. So he's moved up. So I've been kind of hand choosing. We are going to start with the guys moving up. And the first guy is also an obvious one, but I want to get a little bit more concrete on how we feel about Corey Knievel. He's obviously moving up because it is widely believed that he's going to be Philadelphia's closer. He's up 207 picks to a 187 ADP. Look what happens when you get a job. You made him the number 1 pick in the restart of our draft from Arizona, which we do in mid-October and then resume in early January. And so obviously a lot of news happens there. And you found a guy with a wide open closer's job. You obviously believe in it enough to take him as the 24th pick. But how do you feel about Knievel overall? Do you believe that this is firmly his job? Obviously in the 24th round, it's a slam dunk, but are you going to be taking him at this new ADP around 187? Let's talk Corey Knievel, Justin. How do you feel?
I mean, as things are currently constructed in Philadelphia, and if we believe what their GM has said, that they're not going to be in the market for any more free agent closers after the signing, you would think he's got to be pretty locked in. I tend not to believe them because the rest of that bullpen's kind of a mess. And I feel like
I do believe. Well, here's the thing. If they do get bullpen, it's not going to be better than Knievel, in my opinion.
I think they are like the perfect landing spot for Kimbrel. And so maybe they don't
trade assets for that, though, too, and we don't know what that costs.
Yeah, that's true. But maybe they figure out a deal of some sort to improve both teams.
I mean, that's fair. That they would be a decent fit, and obviously that would tank one CK's value and skyrocket another CK's value there. And Kimbrel was actually a big dropper, which actually kind of surprised me because I thought and I didn't include him on our drops list, but I thought people were pretty dead set the way you and I are that he's going to get traded. I think you and I
I
are.
think for the most part they are, but I think the longer and longer that goes without happening, obviously with the
Sure.
lockout,
With the lockout, yeah.
that can't happen. But I think the longer and longer that goes without happening, the more and more nervous people get. Right, the closer we get to opening day without him having a concrete closing job, the more people are going to freak out, which is understandable. I think it's way too early to start freaking out. I think it's silly. I think he represents a pretty nice, bargain or value right
Kimbrel, you're
now.
saying now.
Yeah, Kimbrel. Knievel, I don't know that I'm going to pay the new ADP. I just, this draft that you're referencing, like you said, we drafted the first 23 rounds in October, started up now, and he was clearing away the most locked in closer.
Yeah.
And I only had one closer on my team. I'm actually
I took
on the
Lucas
clock
Sims.
right now.
I took Lucas Sims 2 picks after you. I told you on the last
Mhm.
pod, I think, that I wanted Knievel. He was my number one. Actually, O'Neal Cruz was my number 2, and you and Curlin took those guys 1, 2. So I went with Sims, who I think has a pretty decent shot at getting the Cincinnati role. What's interesting to me is that Kimbrel's ADP is higher right now at 162. Between those two, do you prefer the Kimbrel spec? Are you?
I do.
Is this an NLDH situation? You're that dead set that he's going to get moved?
Yeah, I mean, it feels pretty likely. I mean, they're paying him a lot of money, and if he stays there to stay in a role that he was not super successful in once he was traded to Chicago, they also brought in Graveman to set up.
Yeah.
They've got Aaron Bummer. Unless they want an elite bullpen, which they have right now.
I mean, they already do. Yeah.
Even without Kimbrel. I mean, they could keep him. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like that's what is going to happen. I think they're looking for a way to maybe improve their second base position, or
what if they had Nick Madrigal?
yeah,
Literally who they traded for. I didn't mind that trade.
Like, here's something. Do they offer Kimbrel for to Philadelphia for someone like Alec Baum? They can move Moncada back to second. Take a shot on an Alec Baum.
Boy, that'd be a hot buy low. I'd actually love that for the White Sox. I would hate that for the Phillies.
I would.
You give up on Baum for a 33-year-old reliever?
I doubt they'd be willing necessarily to do it, unless they really felt like they had they really needed Kimbrel. But I mean, there's going to be opportunities. Teams are always looking to improve their bullpen. I don't think there's going to be a shortage of shooters for a guy like Kimbrel, who's a proven closer.
I wonder if the Kimbrel move has to happen after Kenley signs. He's the domino that falls, and then whoever didn't get him has to start calling the White Sox for Kimbrel. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know, because I mean, the nice thing about Kimbrel is, yes, it's expensive, but it's only 1 year.
Yeah, and he's not going to be that much. Like, I think Kenley will still cost more and multiple years, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
It's $16 million for Kimbrel.
There are going to be a lot of teams that won't want to pay the 3-year or 4-year deal on Jansen that are more than happy to say, hey, I mean, look, the A's, one of the cheapest teams in the history of baseball, shelled out $16 million on Trevor Rosenthal.
And they're like, never again. This is why we don't do that.
But like, even if a team like the A's can do that on a 1-year deal, anybody
well, every team can. No team's actually poor. They're all
if they will do it, that means every team will do it, if they feel like they're in contention. So I think it's a foregone conclusion Kimbrel is traded at some point.
Jansen and Kimbrel both 34 years old too, so no age consideration between one or the other, both righties, so we'll see. Anyway, we started this with Knievel. 187 is where he's moved up to. The next closer that's going right by him is Scott Barlow. Corey Knievel or Scott Barlow?
Knievel?
Yeah.
I don't like Scott Barlow.
I'm more firm on Knievel than you are.
Yeah, I know.
I hear you on something like a Kimbrel deal, and I guess despite what they said, if they then turn around and sign Kenley Jansen, I still wouldn't have my jaw hit the floor. I'd be like, they lied and said that they weren't doing anything so that they could sneak in and get Jansen or something. So it's not set in stone, but I think it's a pretty fair price. I'm going to get some shares of Knievel. Now, his min pick's 97. No shot. No universe. No chance. Why would you do that? That's a bad pick. There is something that's taken. There is such thing as going too far on the get your guys strategy, and taking Corey Knievel inside the top 100 is exactly that. Another guy right by him right now in the current ADP, in the January only ADP, is our next guy up. That's Marcelo Zuna, who's up 104 picks to a 196 ADP. And listen, I know it's unsavory to want to talk about him because with the domestic abuse stuff. I grant that, but he's going to play next year, and we can't just pretend that he doesn't exist as a player. If you choose to not roster any guys like that, I don't blame you. That is fine. At the end of the day, we're trying to have fun and enjoy this game. And if you don't like having anybody of ill repute on your team, that's fine. Other people are like, they're number generating, randoms. They don't matter to me as far as what their morality is. So you can make that decision. The bottom line is that the way everything's shaping up, it looks like Ozuna's going to play this year. And so that's why he's up 104 picks to a 196 ADP. Justin, I know that you're somebody who said, I'm going to take players that I think can help me win. It doesn't mean I support what they do. And that's another thing too. If somebody takes a scumbag, I think we have to stop pretending that means that they endorse what those people do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do not endorse. I do not endorse. Anybody who lays hand on anyone. Yeah. Much less a spouse. So
yeah, and like I said, I don't mind if you prefer to never draft those folks because that way you're never rooting for anybody like that. But don't go the opposite way and be like, you drafted abuser, you must love abuse. Like that. Yeah. Come on. I think we're bigger adults than that to understand. So as far as Ozuna goes, are you paying this price up at 196? Like, if you look, his 2021 was off to a brutal start, but it was 208 plate appearances, so it could have turned around, right? It went the opposite of where his 2020 was, just to further underline how useless the 2-month season was. Ozuna was like MVP caliber for those 2 months, and then one of the worst players in the league for 2021. Neither is indicative of really where he is. So what do we do going forward with Ozuna?
I mean, that's the real question, right? Because I mean,
is he a mix of the two? That's a 132 WRC plus. That's still pretty darn good. So
and a value. I mean, we're talking about a guy who was a top 50, top 75 pick, coming into last year. So
yeah, coming off that 2020, people were hot on Ozuna because it was such a good 60 game sample.
So, I mean, he's a value where he's going. The question is like, we assume the Braves are just going to throw him back in the lineup. But what if the Braves say, we don't want to be associated with you as this kind of play, considering what you've done off the field. So, I mean, I think there is some risk to him that isn't field related, right?
Sure.
That the Braves could say, listen, yeah, we're paying you, but you're not going to play, in the same way that the Texans, with Deshaun Watson said, we're paying you, but you're not going to play for us. So I haven't taken Ozuna any drafts. I've been tempted because there are definitely times in which, that 196 ADP is, you're at pick 230 something and you're like, whew, there's a lot of upside there. But I haven't been able to pull the trigger as of yet. Not necessarily a morality thing, but not necessarily, with the lack of speed, we don't know what the batting average is going to look like. Has he lost a step, missing so much time? Is he going to be rusty and kind of start slow?
Basically a year off for him.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions with Ozuna that haven't made me feel overly excited to take a shot.
He's got Jorge Soler going just 2 outfielders in front of him. They're pretty interesting comps because of what they do, kind of that all power sort of outfielder. In fact, Soler went and did a good Marcelo Ozuna imitation on the field last year as a big pickup for the Braves that we know was also instrumental in the playoffs. Andrew Benintendi, the outfielder going right after him, is actually the next guy we're going to talk about, Enrique Hernandez, who's also up. Saya Suzuki, who we've discussed, Austin Hayes. He's going in a group of comparables there. Does he belong with that group? Do you agree that he belongs with that group there, or does Ozuna stand out one way or the other with his peers at the new ADP?
I think because of the questions in terms of like what Atlanta will do with him, and the rust, that he hasn't played very much in the last pretty much 2 years, right? Because he only got a 60 game or played like
Yeah, I mean,
54
it's
games. Like the
108
combination,
games the last 2 years
yeah.
combined.
So I mean, I think he belongs in that tier because of that. If we knew he was Ozuna of old, healthy, ready to go, in shape, then he would be a cut above a lot of those guys, with a few exceptions. I feel like Seiya Suzuki, once we know he's signed, he
Oh yeah,
like
he's
wipes away
jumping.
his question mark. He's going to jump up huge.
He's jumping like
Um,
50 points after
yeah.
he gets signed, I bet.
So I mean, if we see Ozuna just crushing balls in spring training, whenever that's going to be, then I think he's going to jump up quite a bit, deservedly so.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those, and we've talked about that a lot with respect to pitchers who are returning from injury. People see them, it's going to naturally start moving guys up. Anybody that hasn't really been seen for whatever reason, injury or being a piece of garbage, um, once they're back, people are seeing them perform. Those that are interested in just taking whomever will want to take Ozuna. I mentioned that Enrique Hernandez was next on the list. He's up 31 spots, so about 2 rounds to a 209 ADP. I guess I'm just wondering, like, why is he randomly moving up to, like, a 2-round move is kind of substantial. Is there anything in particular, or people maybe his ADP was just too low previously, down at 240? Well, what's up with not Marcel, with Enrique Hernandez moving up 2 rounds? And is he somebody you like for 2022 still in Boston?
I gotta wonder if it's the playoff performance where he hit 408 with 5 home runs, maybe influencing people a little bit. It's the last
Well,
thing
no,
they
because
saw.
the first sample would have stopped in December, so it wouldn't have had all the playoff impact. The
It
second sample
would
at
have.
209 is just January.
I really, because I don't really understand why he's moving so
I don't
high.
know.
Like,
Like it's pretty. Like again, this is not a direct order of the guys who are moving, like one to whatever, but he is literally the 10th biggest mover, which really within the top 300. By the way, I didn't go beyond the top 300 on some guy who's moving from like 400 to 600 type of deal.
I mean, he's fine, but he lost second base eligibility in most formats. He only played 8 games. Oh, wait, sorry. It's shortstop. He lost shortstop eligibility in most
he's
formats.
second outfield for us, Enrique Hernandez in NFBC.
Yeah, sorry about that. So he lost shortstop eligibility, so no longer triple eligible.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about Hernandez had always been like, oh, if he could just get full time playing time, and he got full time playing time. Like
he was pretty good.
He was good. He was fine.
Yeah,
but like nothing special. Like
that's true. 250, 337, 449 for his slash line, 19% K, 10% walk. So solid plate skills, 20 homers, 60 ribs, 84 runs, and threw a steal your way as well. Fine, but kind of bland. I think eligibility is generally his calling card. It's down to dual eligible, but it is infield outfield, which we really like when it's a dual eligible like that. I think it's fine. I'm surprised he moved up 2 rounds kind of randomly as far as I'm concerned, but I think it's fine. And he's a worthy option to me around that time. He's not somebody that I have like starred on my list, but if Enrique Hernandez is a fit in that 200 something range, in that early 200s, I can see myself rostering him, but I do not go crazy to try to get Enrique Hernandez.
I think what it is, like, it is a high floor play. Because, I mean, a lot of the guys he's going around, I'm assuming, are guys who are high risk, high reward, right?
Well, the same guys we just talked about, right?
Yeah.
Ozuna's literally right above him in the January ADP. Benintendi,
high upside.
Seiya Suzuki, high upside,
low floor. Whereas, Hernandez is kind of the opposite. Like, he's not gonna put up like a 30 home run season or like a 2010 season, anything like that. But
he does not.
Like, you can pretty much pencil in high teens, low 20s home runs, a decent average, multi eligibility. Probably decent. Runs and RBIs, considering the Boston lineup's still pretty good. So, I mean, it's probably people are going, listen, I've got some risk on my roster already. I need a little bit of safety and I need flexibility, and Enrique Hernandez fits that bill.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just that as January, as we turn the calendar to January, more people come in who are like, drafting these draft and holds, and they put a lot of value on stability and production. And he's playing. Like Enrique Hernandez is playing every day somewhere in Boston. And he led off 118 games last year, too. So he's batting at the top of a solid lineup. Maybe he just never should have been at 240 to start as an ADP. And this is just getting him to where he belongs. It's not necessarily an endorsement of like, oh, he's so sick, but more of like, why was he this low? Early 200s makes more sense than the mid 200s. And I can buy that. He's fine. Another one that surprised me, because I don't know if there's like news tied to it, and if there is, I missed it. But Mitch Garver is also up about 2 rounds, 29 picks to ADP 193. I got to say, I'm a little bit annoyed by this one just because I like Garver and I've been feeling like he's a pretty good value. I think even at 193 ADP, it's not cost prohibitive, but I was liking it quite a bit more when he was into the early 200s. Mitch Garver moving up 2 rounds. How does he suit you over there at catcher? Really lining up as a late C1 if you haven't gotten anybody yet, or an awesome C2 if you want to stock up at catching. Like if you got a Will Smith early and then you went Garver, that would be your 2 catchers within the top 200 picks. For most people, I think Garver will be a C1 now that he's the 10th catcher off the board. Is he somebody that interests you for 2022?
Yeah, I've got him ranked as my number 14 catcher off the board. I think that part of the movement might be the idea that with Nelson Cruz gone, he could find some more time at DH, which would obviously give him more plate appearances and pump up his value quite a bit. I think that is probably fair. I know they want to play Kirilloff a lot there, but they'll also use Kirilloff out in the outfield or at first base times. They can also use Garver at first base.
I was going to say Garver plays some first too, right? So that's also another avenue to kind of like clearing up that DH though. Even if it's not directly DH time going to Garver, I think your point about Cruz being gone is a trickle impact for Garver, whether he goes to first more often or in that DH spot. It does open up things to help him improve his playing time. And he got back on track last year. I think it's kind of hidden. I don't hear enough chatter about it that, it wasn't the 31 homers in 93 games that he did back in 2019, but he was dreadful in the short season. He only played half of it. Not even. He played 23 games, 81 plate appearances, just a complete washout. 511 OPS. Garver was off the board for consideration for a lot of folks. He really sank in cost last year and bounced back with a 13 homer, 256 average combo in 243 plate appearances. Just a brilliant C2 for folks. And he's ascended back into that C1 territory. And like I said, I'm on board, and I'm on board with the new cost too. I would rather not pay the higher price, obviously, but I don't think it's out of pocket to pay pick 193 for Mitch Garver right now.
No, I think that's totally fair. It's a price I'm willing to pay, especially if I haven't gotten an early catcher. I don't typically play in kind of the middle tiers of catchers. I'm either getting an elite one or I'm trying to find a huge bargain. I still think Garver's somewhat of a bargain, so I think he falls into that. But I don't know how many times I'm going to end up with him this year.
Where do you have Adley ranked? Adley Rushman?
I have Adley Rushman ranked 11th.
He's the 9th catcher off the board. I just feel like, man, I know he's supposed to be like the unicorn type, the more of the Buster Posey, Joe Mauer type, but I feel like we just don't learn with these prospect catchers. No shot. I'm not going to have Adley Rushman anywhere this year, unless I'm in a room where everyone feels similarly to me, and he just drops. But at this ADP of 178, no chance. No chance.
I'm definitely interested. The hard part is, as much as I'd like to get him in a draft, for me at least, I'm coming up at the end of the times in which I take him, because I don't think I would take him in a traditional NFBC league with only 7, bench spots, and now I've got to hold a third catcher on my roster for 3 weeks. However long he's going to be in the minors. I think that would be really difficult for me to do. So I only have 3 more DCs that I'm going to do before I start doing my fab drafts. And so I'm running out of time. I'd like to get him on a team. Maybe it'll be Tout Wars. Maybe it'll be one of these DCs. But it's I'm very intrigued by the upside, right? Like, especially because, that back half of the catcher pool is so atrocious that, I might as well, if I'm going to draft a potentially atrocious catcher, it might well be someone with the upside of Adley Rushman.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I hear you. I hear you, but man, a draft and hold. I'm probably going to do a couple more draft and holds than the ones that we already have. I might get one there, maybe, but I don't know, man. I just don't know that the upside. I think I gotta stick to my guns on
That's fair.
prospect catchers.
I'm usually very anti prospect catchers. I never draft prospect catchers in Dynasty.
No shot.
Rushman just feels like he has a real opportunity to kind of just be the outlier there. If you're not willing to take a shot on an outlier, that's fine. Like, don't
Yeah. I mean, I will say this: he's one of those guys that I might not have on any roster, but I'll be rooting for heavily.
Yeah.
He's a fun player to watch. Switch hitting, do it all catcher on a team that needs to kind of boost up. It'll be easy to root for him, even if he's not on my team, unless it's the team chasing me. When I'm in first and they're in second, then I'll have to root against him. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, though.
One of our Discord members, Henry Wilson, in the chat saying, "I love Adley and I want him to be amazing, but I will not pay that price." Totally
Bingo.
get it. I totally
perfectly encapsulates where I stand with Adley. Let's stay on the prospect train here. I like how we've taken some of these combos on to different players there, with the Corey Knievel one going to Craig Kimbrell and the Mitch Garver one going to Adley Rushman. I wonder if the Josh Young one will stay with him or move elsewhere. We have mentioned him here and there, but I don't know that we've zeroed in on him yet. So I wanted to highlight him. He's up nearly 2 rounds, plus 26 picks to 263. I think this is one that's going to keep going, and any sort of quality spring, boom, it's going to skyrocket, because Josh Young, is on the cusp. And yes, Texas did just make 2 big moves to solidify their middle infield. What could go well with that? How about a third baseman to help him out? Josh Young pairing up with Seager and Semien. Well, where are you going to put IKF? I don't know. The bench? Who gives a damn?
Yeah,
what do you mean? Where are you going to put IKF?
He'll play for Corey Seager when Corey Seager's hurt.
Oh my God! How dare you?
You just walked right into that.
Found a way to take a shot at Corey Seager. That's unbelievable. He can catch. Let him catch and then get catcher eligibility again. That's the only way he has fantasy value. But no, I don't think he blocks off Josh Young.
Top 5 catcher.
What's that?
That's a top 5 catcher.
At Yahoo, I'm sure he was, because of those steals, even though he was a dreadful hitter. Anyway, Josh Young, don't want to derail. Great 2-level season at Double and Triple A. Really handled both with aplomb. The move did not bother him at all. Went from Double A, where he had a nice 140 WRC plus, and said, "Oh, I can do even better here. How about a 166 WRC plus?" And that was in 186 in Double A and 156 at Triple A plate appearances, respectively. That was a mangled sentence there, but you get the point. He played about 43 games at one, 35 at the other. He didn't go to the fall league, which I thought would have been an even bigger indicator that he'd be up early, because we always talk about how that's kind of a finishing school. Probably they were just set on how great his season was, though. They realized, hey, take some time off, because you're going to be playing in the majors early next year. I'd love to see him break camp at age 24. I don't even think that's impossible. But if he doesn't, I feel like Josh Young is somebody who's up after that 2-week period, that very first run where guys come up. And I think he's ready to go. And the market tends to agree there, because at 263, you're paying that's a real price, right? That guys going around there, Gio Urshela, Abraham Toro, Jonathan Villar, the aforementioned Alec Boehm. None of those are stars, but those are players that you're expecting to give you something real on the year. So Josh Young's ADP has now put him in a spot where there is real expectation. I believe you share that expectation with Josh Young, and you're interested in him. Do you have him anywhere yet?
I do have him already. Don't know how many leagues I have him. I know I've drafted him at least once. Let's see. Just once. I think he's going to be up very early and hit right out of the gate. I mean, he's got good contact abilities, a ton of power. I think this Rangers team obviously wants to be aggressive. So I think it's going to be pretty likely that he's in that first wave of call-ups. I've seen some people who know prospects better than me that have said that they think that he could break camp with a team.
See, I think so too.
I don't know that I buy that unless he signs some sort of deal to buy out the arbitration years.
Eh,
I mean, the way
he's
you
24.
afford these huge contracts that they doled out to Simeon and doled out to Seager is by having cost-controlled players for as
No
long
doubt.
as possible. So I think it seems like much more cost-effective, especially because it sounds like
He's 24 though. You keep the guy down for the extra year. And I'm not saying that they can't use an extra year with him. It's different when they're 22 though, and the fact that he's 24, like, do you need to work that hard for age 31 season? I think it really depends on, are they deluding themselves into thinking like, hey, we're the upstart team this year, we're this year's Mariners, so we need every at bat from Josh Young that we can get, or are they more realistic in understanding that their pitching is nowhere near contention yet, and they've made some big offensive moves, and we'll just keep them down for the 2 weeks? Here's the thing, though, with the guys that are like the first wave, if we believe that, and I think we do both agree with that, I don't even think that discussion matters. Throw that part aside then. Who cares? The 2 weeks don't matter. I'm more focused on the player. That 2 weeks does not change my mind one way or the other as far as whether or not I would draft him.
Yeah. Breaking news. The Fantasy Sports Writers Association is announcing awards right now. So I will let you know if we get nominated for anything.
Oh, let's go. That'd be great. I would love if this podcast got nominated, for example.
Me too.
How cool would that be?
I'm scrolling. I don't think.
I see him.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing baseball yet, right?
I haven't seen anything baseball. Austin Eckler has been nominated for a Fantasy Sports Award.
I see that. Best
awesome.
Video short form. Austin Eckler's a G. He streams too.
Friend Chris Meany nominated for Best Video Long Form.
Very nice.
We like him. Rotobuzz and Jim
Player notes, Patrick Doherty and Jeff Erickson nominated. Mike Doherty and RotoWire as well. Good stuff. Keith Hernandez. Yeah, very nice. So, yeah, I'll keep that open, too, and if we see some things come through. But putting a bow on Josh Young, I think we're both open to paying this price. For me, at $263, I can afford the 2 weeks down in the minors there. He strikes me as a guy who looks like he's ready to get a shot relatively soon. I'm going to put some faith in, unless we hear news to the contrary, I'm going to put some faith in the Rangers that they're going to have him up relatively early into the year, and thus I'm going to draft him there. Where's your cutoff, though? If he keeps moving up, where do you start to say, oh, okay, Josh Young, you need to tap the brakes here? Are you still taking him at, say, an ADP around 210, where he would come just after Josh Donaldson and just before Jeimer Candelario? That'd be about a 50-spot jump from where we are now.
I don't think so. I think that would price him out of where I would be.
Yeah, honestly, he's kind of maxing for me right now. Like this is my cutoff, because if he jumps ahead of Gio Urshela, Abraham Toro, and Jeimer Candelario, I'm taking all three of those guys instead.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to some guys moving down. And again, I'll reiterate, this is not just the 5 biggest droppers. These are relevant ones I've handpicked. I'll give you the first guy is the biggest one, because I'm curious by this. 55 spot drop for Nikki Lopez from 191 to 247. I gotta put Sean on the couch here. She doesn't want to be in my lap anymore. I don't blame her. But what's going on here with the Nikki Lopez situation? Is it Bobby Witt love that's killing him? Because he had a great year, and the obsession with stolen bases, I was surprised to see Nikki Lopez moving down. I thought he might start moving the other way, despite being power deficient. He went for a 300, 365, 378 season with 22 steals in 23 attempts, and he's a brilliant defender. So even when Witt comes up, Lopez is not coming off the field. I think Witt has a chance to play third while keeping Lopez at short. So why is he down almost 4 rounds?
I think people are a little concerned about the profile in terms of lack of power, lack of RBIs, and worried that this is going to be fluky, that he's going to revert back into the player he kind of was. I would fire back that he makes amazing, like elite zone contact.
And always has, right? That was not new.
No, yeah, he always has. He's very, very fast. Yes, he is a negative in terms of power. Your RBIs uh, and your home
Yay, we got
runs.
nominated.
Yeah, baby.
Or finalists. Sorry to interrupt you there. Hacks and Jacks with Joe Galena and If the Chew Fits. Circling the Bases from NBC Sports Edge. Rates and Barrels featuring Anos Aris
Never heard of him.
and Derek Vinriper. I don't know how to say that.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Never. Yeah.
Yikes. I guess they're just kind of giving out the noms to anybody. And then Pitcher List. I like them. And then the Sleeper and the Bust with us, baby. Let's go.
That's a really shout out to Pitcherless Hacks and Jacks, I believe, is another
that is a Pitcher List one. Yes.
Yeah. So
two Pitcher Lists showing up. Circling the Bases from Sports Edge. Our buddies Derek and Eno from Rates and Barrels. I believe they won last year, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
And Pitcher List nommed again too. I think those are both. I think the three of us, Rates and Barrels, Pitcher List, and Sleeper in the Bus. I think those are repeats from last year. So good luck to everybody.
And best baseball article: Kenyatta Storin, Blair Williams, and John Legeza, who has been on the podcast. For those who don't know Kenyatta Storin, like he is the number one historical player in TGFBI. Works at Number Fire. Blair Williams at Everywhere Blair, fantastic writer as well. You should definitely be following them.
Yeah, great group there.
Yep.
I wish they would give us a way to read the articles that are being put up.
Yeah, I wish they would too. And best baseball ongoing series, Elliot Boss, Eric Samolsky, who has been on the podcast, and Matt Williams has been on the podcast. So congratulations to those guys as well.
Another good group there. I gotta say, Jeff Zimmerman, Minding the News, got robbed. Best baseball writer of the year: Steve Gardner, Scott Engel, Kenyatta Storin, Eric Cross, and Carlos Marcano. Another excellent group.
Yeah,
man, these are gonna be tough. Anyway, I did interrupt you to highlight us. I'm sorry. Nikki Lopez, you say people might be worried about the powerless profile, think he's a fluke, but he's an elite contact guy. I actually buy the speed, and I think he's a great representation of how difficult it is to predict speed, because he was 1 for 8 or 1 for 7 for his career coming in. And you just said, what do you mean I should expect some steals from him? And by the way, I'm not saying like I had him down for some steals this year. No, I didn't pay any attention to Nikki Lopez. But his ability to run didn't just come up this year. He didn't go buy some speed pills. That's not how speed works as a drug, folks. And all of a sudden he goes 22 for 23. That's impactful. Is that enough for you? Like, can you build? Are you building profiles with your team where you're like, I know I need to stock power because I like Nikki Lopez as my MI? Is he somebody who actually interests you, or do you just defend him? Generally speaking, because you said you push back on some of the negatives against him, but more to highlight his goodness versus drafting him.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not a guy I'm trying to target. Like, I'm not going into a draft where I go, hey, I'm gonna wait on speed because I know Nikki Lopez will be available for me later. He's more of a, oh my god, I don't have speed. I'm gonna draft Nikki Lopez because he's not gonna hurt me in batting average, or he shouldn't hurt me in batting average. And I'm going to get 20 plus stolen bases, after pick 200 in the draft, which is super hard to do. Like, it's just really, really hard to do. And I've already done this in a draft where, like, one of my most recent DCs, I just took best player available for the first 6 rounds and found myself really speed deficient by the time, I was kind of in the middle rounds of the draft. And I was like, Nikki Lopez is there. I'm going to take him, and I'm going to, add 20 stolen bases to my ledger and hope that the average sustains in the way that I think he can.
Yeah, I think he's somebody that I could land on. If I did find myself desperate for the speed and the fact that he's going down in price, I think it is also not just his profile. I do think the Bobby Witt thing is playing a role, but I'm sorry. I just don't know that we live in a world where somebody puts up a 4.5 win season and then gets dusted for the hot price. And Bobby Witt's a god. This is not a Bobby Witt shade at all. If anything, it's a Nikki Lopez hype comment there to say that he deserves another, season to see where he's at based on how well he played. Because he'd only had like 600 plate appearances before this. It wasn't enough to say that he's worthless. So now we've seen, 600 where he was pretty awful, and then 565 this past year where he was a league average hitter with amazing defense and quality speed. I think he can be a lot of what 2021 was. I think he regresses a bit in the batting average hits closer to say 280 with no pop, but I think the speed, if he keeps running, why couldn't he get 30 SBs?
That amazing defense part is really important too. Like
exactly
his defense, yeah. I mean, his defense is really, really good. And when you've got a lot of young pitchers in the way the Royals do, you want a guy up the middle who can help protect them a little bit. So I think he is pretty guaranteed 500 plus plate appearances, maybe 600. Maybe once Bobby Witt is up, he moves down in the lineup. He's not hitting second.
Sure,
I can totally see that.
I can agree. Yep.
And if you're not a fan of powerless players, I totally understand fading him, but make sure then you get your stolen bases early. This for me is more of a matter of I don't mind the price, and if I need speed, that's got to be a target.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with the speed obsession out there. I think you got to at least have Nikki Lopez on your list. Make sure that if he is somebody you like, that you are overstocking on power. The average that you need, I think, is about per spot of around 20-something low 20s homers per spot to be in the upper echelon of home runs. When you do those projections where you say, I want to be top 3 in everything type deal, it's about 20 plus homers per, 22, 23 homers per spot. Mm-hmm. So if you're taking a Nikki Lopez, who at most you should say is going to luck into 4, I think that's the highest projection that you could reasonably give him. You really should put down 1 or 0, in my opinion. That puts another big burden on another spot, if not 2 or 3 spots, if you're going to spread it out. So make sure your power stocked. If you got to build, if you go, who Nikki Lopez is good for? The people in the first round who get like a Vlad, or who else is in the first round that doesn't really run? There's so few guys now. I guess Harper doesn't run that much. You would be a little speed deficient if you took Harper. I guess that's really it in the first round.
But maybe you take a pitcher in the first round
or pitcher, duh.
And then you end up with Yordan. You go pitcher, Freddie Freeman, Yordan Alvarez. You have 0 speed.
There you go. That's a good call. That build would be perfect for Nikki.
Even if you took someone like Kyle Tucker first round, and then took, a pitcher second round and a Yordan in the third or something like that, you're still pretty speed deficient. It may be hard at that point to start, catching up on speed. And if, I understand people don't like the Miles Straws of the world or the Nikki Lopez of the world, but they're affordable. These aren't like guys being priced like Billy Hamilton was.
You can just plan. The thing is, they don't want to do the plan. And if you don't, that's fine. We say draft to your strengths, but you can make a plan to take these guys, and it's not that hard.
Yeah,
it's not that hard to afford.
People in the chat right now are mentioning that Kansas City is just going to run. That's what they do. They run.
Exactly.
And
so he should run even more than what we saw this past year, because he does have quality speed. He was very efficient at 22 for 23. So yeah, we like Nikki Lopez for the right build. Just make sure you know what you're doing, because obviously you don't necessarily go in with your the pick at 290. What was his ADP? 246. You don't necessarily have that ADP mapped out that far where you're like, I know who I'm taking around pick 240. But if you like players like that, like Straw, like Lopez, you know what you need to do early. Power, because you don't want to fall behind just for 25 stolen bases. Yeah. So that's Nikki Lopez. Back to the closer ranks. Ken Giles moving down. He's down 46 picks to 287. This one surprises me, Justin. I thought he'd be going the other way, because I feel like I've been seeing some hype that he's going to be the closer. I don't know that I agree with it, but I was surprised to see him going the other way. Is there Steckenrider and Seawald love that's overpowering it, or just some Ken Giles hate that's maybe going too far? Where do you come out on Ken Giles? He's returning from TJ. He got to recover with Seattle, and there's a camp that believes that he's going to be the guy. There's obviously another camp that's pushing back, though, that's saying, no, he won't. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think that they're going to be – it's going to be really, really frustrating in Seattle to pick who the closer is going to be. I think that they are going to ride the hot hand a lot. I think that they are going to play matchups to the best of their ability, because that's what the analytics tell them. And that's, I think, what we saw quite a bit, especially towards the end of last year. Even when they added Diego Castillo, he didn't automatically become the guy.
Was it Steckenrider mostly closing in September?
Steckenrider was closing. Seawald got opportunities. Castillo was in the mix. now you add Ken Giles into it. And
don't sleep on Andres Munoz coming back too.
Yeah,
Dude throws 100 without even trying.
And they just signed him to a really team-friendly long-term deal. So
Munoz did?
I believe so.
Oh, great.
So, I mean, there's lots of options, and I don't think one guy is going to hold it the whole season. Like, when I did my relief pitcher ranks, which I hate to do, by the way, relief pitcher ranks.
I need to post mine. I'm sorry, y'all.
The worst.
They're finally done, but I agonized through them, and I just need to post them. I'm sorry.
People in the comments just go crazy in ranking articles. Begin with relief pitcher is the worst. But people kept asking me like, hey, why do you have like 3 Seattle guys ranked like in your top 40
because I don't
and all right next? Because I don't know. I'm just throwing a dart. Like whichever one's still there out of the 3s, maybe I'll throw a dart on, you know.
Yeah, take a personal preference. And then like in a 50-round draft and hold in the FPAS one that we're in, I just took Andres Munoz in like round 45 because why not?
I feel like Seawald is the best of
You're up, by the way, in that draft.
I know. So you know. I do know this. I feel like Seawald is the best of the bunch, but being the best of the bunch doesn't mean you're going to be the closer.
Because he first off, I think they liked him as the fireman, and he's got a bit of a home run issue relative to the other guys, like a career one. He's a career 1.3. He was at 1.4 last year, and you just don't want that in the 9th. I think right now I favor Steckenrider. I've always had a soft spot for Diego Castillo too. I don't really know why. I think it's an unearned soft spot. Maybe because he did really well for me with Tampa Bay. He was on my teams a lot this year, so maybe that's it. I had a good year and he was part of it. But I like him too. It's so hard. Like there was it Steckenrider, Giles, Seawald, Castillo, Munoz. That's 5 options. I don't think I'm either going to take somebody as a late round freebie like I took Munoz, or I'm not messing with this bullpen. I think that's where I'm at. I wonder if this Giles move is other people throwing up their hands. I should have actually looked at all the other guys too and seen. I can't actually tell you this. Diego Castillo was another big move down too, and I think it's because people are realizing that he's not, having any sort of certainty for that job either. In fact, I think he's way down the list at this point.
I think in some ways we have we've called Camden Yards Coors East, right?
Yeah.
The Giants have tried to become
I think I know where you're going with this.
Tampa Bay West in terms of like platooning players and things like that.
Yeah.
This is Cincinnati West, right?
Okay, I thought you were going to say Tampa Bay West, but I knew where you were going where it's very confusing.
Yeah, so like not only is it very confusing, I don't think we're going to get clarity into the season. Like I think
you're right.
I think unless there's a rash of injuries where now they only have one guy.
Yep.
Or one guy is clearly far and away the best and is the only one that hasn't imploded. Like I think they're just going to rotate this job, and so therefore you should not be invested into this bullpen highly. Like you want to take some shots in DCs or something like that, fine. But like if you're looking for a lockdown closer or two, you're not going to find it in the Seattle bullpen.
No, it really doesn't look. The only thing I could see, or not the only thing, but one thing I could see is if Giles came back and he was just unbelievable and ran away with it. But I'm not drafting him to like bet on that. I might have a share. Like he's 287. Like that's cheap enough on a guy who could get a full roll that I would take a shot. But I'm not going to stock up on a bunch of Giles only to have him, be terrible or not pitch in the 7th inning for the most part. And then I got all these Giles shares that are worthless. So I say you either spread out or avoid it altogether.
I would just avoid. Just like don't like spend a little bit more and get into a situation you feel is a little bit safer. Like I just don't see where one person's going to emerge from this group.
Speaking of closers, we're sticking closers again here. And honestly, I could have gone a list of all closers for the fall down guys. There's another 1, 2, 3 guys that are down at least 2 rounds that I could have gone to, but I didn't want to just make it a full closer talk. But Dylan Floro is our next guy. He's down 34 picks, about 2 rounds, just over 2 rounds to pick 262. This is another one, even more so than the Giles one, because the Giles one I was kind of like more surprised based on what I thought the perception of the community was. This one is more, I'm the complete opposite way. I'm actually moving Floro up. I'm starting to gain some confidence that he's the guy, and the market's saying no, which is great when you're buying because you're getting the discount. why wouldn't they go to him?
Craig Mish, and this was mentioned by Greg Jewett on the Sunday pod when we talked about the Miami
I haven't
situation.
finished that yet.
So Craig Mish says that he believes they're going to bring in an established
Kenley.
veteran guy.
That's my biggest concern is Kenley, but that's my only concern.
Yeah. And he didn't necessarily mention Kenley, but maybe like an Alex Colomé, or a guy like Ian Kennedy, someone like that, especially one that is easily then flipped for more prospects that continue to further the rebuild. And that makes sense.
Fair. That part's fair.
I don't know why they couldn't just do that with Floro. So I've drafted Floro on a few occasions as like my closer 3.
Yeah.
Because I do think if they don't bring someone in, if they're unwilling to bring someone in, or they don't find someone they want to bring in, I think Boxberger was the other guy he mentioned, that he will likely start with a job. The way the team is currently constructed, I think he will. So I hope that's the case, because I think he can be pretty good in the role. And I think Miami is just going to get better and better and be more and more competitive. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think you want him as your closer 2.
No.
But
3 or 4, for sure.
At this discount, I'm going to take the gamble, and hope that maybe I strike gold at a position in fantasy that is difficult to strike gold on.
Exactly. And again, I do have some concerns about Kenley going there. I think he actually is a really good fit. You mentioned those other guys too, which I take when Craig Mish speaks about the Marlins, I listen. So I'm not saying that those guys aren't viable options too. They obviously are. And he would have inside knowledge that they're even being discussed in the Marlins front office. I really hope that they don't usurp Floro for one of those jokers, though. He was awesome. I wrote him up in the forecaster, and that's why I started to take a little bit more notice, because I kind of thought, same old, let me get back on my Anthony Bender train. And I realized that was an error I was making, because I was letting that Bender bias that I had. Remember when that job was open, and I was Bender. And honestly, so was Mish. So I felt validated that the sharpest Marlins guy was there too. So we missed that one together. But I was like, okay, maybe just put that bias off to the side and investigate Floro, independent of that. And Brent Hershey, my editor, was like, you got to look a little bit deeper here. There's more to this than I think you're letting on. So I looked, and he was dead on. I mean, the second half was just unreal. 2.40 ERA and 1.0 whip, fueled by a huge strikeout jump. He had a 29% K rate in the second half, up from 18%. And there was a big swinging strike rate change with that, from 9% to 13%. The velo was up about a half mile per hour, which is not huge, but it was also up. There were a lot of factors that were leading to these extra strikeouts for Floro. So it wasn't just some fluky hot run. I think he had changed, and he's already a ground ball guy too, which we always love, so that home runs don't become an issue. I think if they don't go get one of these joke sticks, I think they should let him have the job. If they bring in Kenley, obviously you let one of the best closers in the universe take the job. I'm fine with that. But otherwise, just stick with Floro here. I'm willing to take the gamble at 262, because even if he doesn't close, if they do bring in Kenley, it sucks, but it's not killing my season, because middle relievers who put up good ratios can still have value in draft and holds when you're just looking for a few innings and you don't want to start, your ninth best starter.
And in a redraft, in a redraft fab league, you can just drop him and move on to the next guy.
Exactly. You just cut and move. And in a draft and hold,
you'll know pretty quickly. You'll be able to pick him up and do one in fab, new guy to speculate on before the start of the season. So exactly. I think it's a fine gamble in any format. Zach in the chat's asking us what we think about Brad Hand. Brad Hand could be one of those guys that's in play.
He should be in that group that you're talking about.
Yeah, I assume that Brad Hand will get an opportunity to compete for a closing job somewhere.
I think you're dead on. He's got that capital C closer tag, and I know some people we roll our eyes at that, but with Hand specifically, I still think he's very good. I know his Toronto stint was awful, but it was 8 2/3, and then he immediately went the other way in 13 1/3 with the Mets. So it was an up and down season for him, but the bottom line was still pretty solid. He's 32 years old. He was great in the partial season of 2020. He led baseball with 16 saves. His skills were off the charts, but again, 22 innings. I think he can be perfectly serviceable. And if Miami got him, I think that'd be better than some of those other guys you mentioned too. I would actually put him higher than like an Ian Kennedy. I just worry about Ian Kennedy's home runs, although teams are still letting him close. So we'll see.
And he's been very effective.
He has. He really has. I got to give him his due. Although when he went to Philly, they became a big problem. He jumped up to a 2.6 homer 9, and that's exactly the concern that I have. So keep an eye on the Floro situation in Miami. Keep an eye on their whole situation once the lockout is done, because they could go get somebody. But at 262, he can't hurt you as a closer 3, closer 4 spec, even if he doesn't get the job. Luis Severino's down almost 2 rounds, 27 picks to 180. This is really just a check-in with you. Where are you at with Luis Severino? Is he somebody you're drafting? Are you buying this discount? We know the talent. It's obviously off the charts, but he's also been off the field for essentially, 3 years now? He pitched 12 innings in 2019, didn't pitch 2020, 6 innings last year. The last time we saw him was 2018. He's still only 28 with gobs of talent. He was back throwing 95, getting a bunch of strikeouts in his 6 innings of work last year. Is that enough to bring you back in on Severino?
I think he's worth a gamble, especially if the price continues to drop.
That moves him down to 180, by the way. So he's still inside the top 200. It's not cheap, but it's also not expensive. It's in that mid-range. So is that a fair price for you at 180?
I think so. I don't think that's a bad price. I mean, I prefer him outside the top 200, and it kind of depends on how I've structured my rotation kind of up until that point. If I feel like I've got a really locked in, solid, first starting 4 or 5 pitchers, I'm going to feel a lot better about like taking a gamble on Severino. I also think that he's probably a better gamble in a fab league than a drafted hole, just because if he gets hurt, if he sucks, you can then just cut bait, right? You cut bait, move on to the next guy, whereas you're stuck with that on your roster in a drafted hold. So, I mean, I've always loved Severino. I've always been a Severino guy. He's like quite literally like never been bad. Like he's just been good his entire career. I feel like he gets shafted in terms of discussing kind of elite pitchers or guys who are very, very good pitchers. And I don't understand why the community as a whole is so excited about Justin Verlander and yet like completely ignoring a guy like Luis Severino. Now that being said, like that doesn't mean I think he's like a top 40 pitcher this year or anything like that. But I think that he has just as much of an opportunity, if not more, to rebound in a huge way than like a guy like Verlander, because Verlander's older.
Decade younger. I mean, Severino is.
He didn't pitch at all last year. At least we saw 5 or 6.
Verlander didn't pitch at all last year.
Yes, Verlander did. Yeah, we saw 5 or 6 really good innings from Severino, and he finished the year healthy on the mound. No reason to think he's not going to be ready to go to start the year. So, I mean, I think that the disparity in ADP between Verlander and Severino is a crime.
Is it a crime?
I mean, it is. It absolutely is a crime.
Shar disagrees.
Yeah, well, Char's a homer like you are.
What? She doesn't even like the Tigers. She's like one of those annoying kids.
He's in Houston. He's in Houston now. She's an Astros fan.
She is a huge Astros fan. She loves cheating. She's like, any way possible. That's her motto.
Yep. Just get the W.
Exactly. Char's like, just get the dub. Just get the food at any cost. She's reaching out to steal like a burrito out of my hand at all costs. You're probably right though. I like Verlander. I'm in. I'm not in at 110, which is where his January ADP is.
And so that's only going to go up and up.
Down. So I ranked him high, right? I've already said I cut out the middleman. I'm treating him as though he's ready to go. So then you say, well, why aren't you picking at 110? I was like, well, I'm selfish. I wanted the discount. Truth of it is, I probably would still pick 110 on the right build. It's expensive though. It really is. I already got my Verlander shares. I'm done until we see something in spring. I took my gambles at a discounted price. Now he's at a point at 110 where he has to perform. And do I really want to bet, even though he's my favorite pitcher ever, on somebody who's going to be age 39 coming off TJ with a pick just outside the top 100? No. You're right though. Severino being that much cheaper. If you want to take a gamble, why wouldn't you just take Severino? Like if you line up Verlander, Thor, Severino, why wouldn't you just take the cheapest one? Can you really separate them that much on their likelihood of returning?
Well, and
I don't think so.
Throw Clevenger in that mix as well.
Throw Club Dog in there too.
But 2 of those 4 pitched last year, and 2 of those 4 did not. And so if I'm going to take a dart, I'm going to take the dart on the guy that we've seen finish the season on the mound.
You know how I feel about that too.
And that's Severino, and that's Syndergaard. I feel a little bit more comfortable about Severino because Syndergaard did have like an arm-related, an elbow-related setback, during his rehab. But he did. He finished 2 innings on the mound, and the season, that's good. But Severino, if I'm going to draft any of these guys, it's going to be Severino. I've yet to draft any of them, though. So completely 5 drafts in right now. I have not taken any of them in a draft, but I would be surprised if I didn't end up with Severino at some point.
How many leagues are you supposed to play this year?
15.
Oh, okay. Okay, but you already have 5?
Well, it depends on which bet or, the discussion.
I know you have 2. Right? You have the divorce pending and then the Rob Silver bet.
So the Rob Silver one is 17. So the over-under that he set was 17.5. And the loser has to buy the other one dinner at a nice restaurant. I
like that.
When next time we meet up, whether that's in Vegas for like an NFBC thing or in Arizona, I'm gonna win that because the other one is 15 with my wife, who says she will divorce me if I play more.
You're gonna do 16. You're gonna get divorced and then celebrate your divorce with the meal with Rob.
I currently have like a spreadsheet with 15 leagues. I've had to cut some leagues I really like too, which is a huge bummer.
You didn't negotiate at all for anything with regards to like fab and whatever. Like, you can bump the number up if it's not fab based. It's just a hard 15 that you're on right now.
Well, I mean, let's clarify. I did not negotiate anything or agree to anything with my wife. This is being imposed on me.
That's fair. To suggest this was a negotiation is wildly understating it.
I negotiated with Rob. I did not my wife is just a one-upper, and she goes, "Oh yeah, Rob says 17, I say 15, and we're getting a divorce." Like, I think she just wants a divorce. And she's like, there's no way he's not going to play in, this many leagues. So, it's a bummer, but I'm probably going to only play in 15 just so I can win both bets.
I mean, you're nothing if not a sharp bettor. So I'm not surprised.
I don't like to lose. Like, I don't. Like,
I know. Same.
And so, like,
I'm very anti-losing.
Yeah. It's there is the temptation, though, to do 16 and then just see what happens. But we'll see.
I think you should sign up for a league 16, while you're at dinner with Rob.
The fun part of this whole thing is that every time someone, because I get league offers like, hey, you want to join this league? Hey, you want to join that? Mm-hmm. Especially people in the industry. And now I can blame it on my wife and then send them her way. She's already signed up for like 3 leagues.
Make her deal with it. That's genius. Sorry, I can't. She said no. Go talk to her.
Yeah, no. But Danielle might take a league, So that's it's beautiful because now she's like, I have too many drafts. I'm like, welcome to my house.
Welcome to Justin's world. That's funny. Okay. I think your desire to not lose will trump your weakness for saying yes to leagues, but I'm still eager to see how it goes, man.
Plus, I mean, I don't know, like Rob. I think Rob, like, he's a man of expensive tastes, right? Like, I've sat, with him, at FPAS one time with him and like Matt Modica, and they were sharing like a bottle of Johnny Walker Blue. Like,
I'm not surprised at all. Yeah, those guys.
So like, I don't know that I can afford to lose that bet with Rob. I can maybe afford to lose the one with Danielle because half my net worth is probably less than dinner would be with Rob. But I definitely can't afford to lose that bet with Rob, so I'm not going to.
That's so funny. Well, I'm eager to see how it goes. I think you got a good shot, but I'm not saying it's a lock. I'm not going to say it's a lock
I
until we
think
get.
it's pretty much a lock because, like,
Well, of
right
course you do. You're
now,
confident in yourself.
well, because my biggest issue is drafting when I'm bored, and as long as I can
True.
get through to the end of this month,
That's the
all
thing,
my
though.
drafts are going
You
to start
say as long
ramping
as I
up.
can get through,
I
and
only
this is
have
still
like
an
today's the
agonizing
21st.
10 days.
10
I know.
days. That's it.
I know you though, Justin, and your desire to draft. The FPAS draft is almost over, baby. Then
My
what do you got going on?
my wife is standing at the door of my office, flipping me off right now.
You have 2 of your last 4 picks coming up here after we talk about our last guy in
Mm-hmm.
FPAS. That one's about to be over, and you might start Jones in. Let's talk Adley Garcia real quick. Let's finish up
Yes.
with him. He's down 20 picks to 169. I think it's the market just sharpening up a little bit. I was actually surprised by his initial ADP. I was like, yeah, this is I'm out. Like I'm easy out on him. There's a price, right? There's always a price, but it's not what he was going at. I don't know that it's even the 169 that he's at right now. For Adley Garcia, we're going to go over it, but it's pretty cookie cutter. Everyone kind of knows the deal with him. Blazing hot start that you don't even have to be some stats wizard to kind of look under the hood and see that it was all going to come crashing down in a big way with regards to his ability to make contact or severe and utter lack thereof. And doesn't take any walks. So he's one of those guys that's going to be up and down, up and down. We saw the high highs early and we saw the low lows in the second half. He did still finish with a 31 homer, 16 steal season with 90 ribbies and 77 runs, 243 average. Let's give him his due for what was an amazing season. Anybody who got him, even if you ate all of it, you waited all the way till the end there with the bad stuff at the end, you love what you got out of Adley Garcia. But now you have to pay for him. Pick 169. Age 28 breakout out of nowhere with flimsy skills. You buying this at all with Adley Garcia? Would you pay the 169? Do you like the
Yeah, I don't think I could pay the 169, but I buy who he is. He's a guy with power. He's a guy with speed, and he's a guy who's going to swing and miss a hell of a lot. And I mean, you said like that he had a hot start. He didn't really have a hot start. He had a hot May. He hit 11 home runs and hit like 312, like in the month of May. The rest of the season, he does not have a month where he hits over 242, and he does not have a month where he has more than 6 home runs. So I think that May is the aberration, and the rest is who he is, which means he could hit somewhere between 210 and 240 with power and speed. So we're talking about, a guy who is potentially like a 25-15 guy with like a 210, 220 batting average. Like that has a lot of value, and he's playing on a team in Texas that doesn't really have a ton of options.
No, he should get some playing time. Like I think he did enough last year where Adley Garcia should get some leeway to at least see what's up. Now, if he comes out hitting $180 into May 15th, I think he starts losing time, even if it's to like Eli White or some rando. I don't even know if he's still on the team, but even to somebody like that, if he's struggling. But coming into the year, I don't know how they can't at least give Adley Garcia something of an opportunity to be like, hey, you were great last year. Let's see where you're at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I overperformed out of no. When I say great, I mean relative to expectations. There was zero expectation on Adley Garcia, and he gave them a league average season for the full year, which is nice for a rebuilding team to have a set it and forget it spot out of nowhere the way he was.
And I think here's the thing: like, do I want to pay this price? I don't. I don't want to pay this price. And so if he continues to drop, I'll be fine with that. But if we're talking about in a league where I'm not worried about, like, I can punt batting average, so a non-overall league. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Justin doesn't talk about, because I got this comment the other day, Justin doesn't talk about punting batting average anymore. That's because I play a lot more NFBC, and those are overall leagues. You can't punt batting average. But if you, in a regular non-overall league, I'm totally down to continue to punt batting average. He's like the perfect guy because he's going to fill up the other 4 stat categories for you.
He really is. Adley Garcia is a great punt batting average play because of his raw power and speed, both of which are bloody red on his player profile. I should also mention for the playing time piece, The defense was well rated too. 97th percentile in outs above average, 88th percentile in outfielder jump, 83rd percentile in
In
sprints.
a very big outfield in Texas
where they need
want
defense.
They want good defense. They've already got crappy pitching. You don't want the pitching that ends up being decent to be let down by bad defense. Like, I think Adolis Garcia is going to play a lot if you can handle a 210 batting average, in 550, 600 plate appearances, then yeah, you can roster him fine. But you have to have either the ability to raise out with that batting average with other players, or be willing to just punt it and go for everything else.
I'm glad the market is coming down on him. When he was a top 40 outfielder, I was just like, yo, I know he went 30, 30-15 last year, 30-16. But come on, we got to look a couple steps deeper and see the issues here. Now he's down to outfielder 46, still higher than I have him ranked, but it's not egregious when I see him going around the likes of Joey Gallo, who also has a batting average issue. He's more power, less speed, but they're kind of similar. Robbie Grossman, Ian Happ, and Adley Garcia. I mean, we might, they've got some similarities. Ian Happ can take a walk, though. That's the big difference.
Yeah,
he's got the same swing and miss issues, but he can stay getting on base with those walks, which helps with the SB opportunities. So I'm more open to Adley Garcia at this price, but it's not ready, not yet at a spot where I'm comfortable. I hear you on the standard leagues, though, the standalones where you can punt batting average. He's a brilliant play for Adley Garcia.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm saying all these nice things and, reasons why you can draft Adley Garcia. I have him as my number 57 outfielder. So, like, I'm below the market still.
Yeah.
But
I think they're 68th. We're very low.
Yeah, I think there are people who are burying him, and I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, don't just ignore skills that he does have and the playing time that he should be getting. I know he's 29, but I mentioned the defense because I think that's going to help him stay on the field unless he just craters completely. So
even if he does, though, like, who are they going to put out there?
Okay. I mean, it depends what we're talking about here, and I don't want to get too bogged down in a hypothetical. But again, I'm saying if he's hitting below 200 on May 15th, he's going to start losing playing time. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they do still have Leody Taveras.
Yeah.
Who
again, Eli White, I think would start playing more. Like they'll Rando from AAA is going to get to start playing if Rando from AAA is hitting 386.
If he's hitting his ADP.
Exactly. Leody is a good name too, and I know he's struggled, but I'm still in on him. So Leody,
he finished out the year well in AAA, though.
He did. I'm not quitting Leody. He's still a great draft and hold pick as far as I'm concerned too. So yeah, Adley, if he keeps dropping, then he really comes into focus. But at least he's dropping a little bit, makes him a little bit more palatable for me right now. But there they are. There's some big movers and shakers comparing October through December ADP versus just January. And obviously, we're going to see even bigger moves. We'll probably do a January versus February in about a month's time to see what's going on there. And hopefully the lockout ends and moves start to happen. And then we see even more things change. But it's going to be February before we know it, Justin, and the season will be going. I want to thank everyone for hanging out, watching us. We're going to be doing these regularly. If you support the Patreon, you'll get all of them. The wide open ones to anybody will be kind of every once in a while type deal. But Justin, thank you for setting all this up. It was great talking with you. Hope you have a great weekend.
Take it easy.